this meeting is being recorded by video and audio means. These recordings will be posted on the city's website for public viewing and listening. In-person attendees of this meeting will be included in this recording. By remaining in this meeting, in-person attendees agree that their images and their voices may be included in these recordings. We have one excuse absent. Nicola fell ill this morning and is not didn't think she should come and share that with us. So she asked for an excuse absence. To make a motion. Motion seconded by Luann. All in favor of excusing Nicola? Okay, so done. The minutes for approval, the draft minutes were distributed by Scott with our agenda. We have two comments that Commissioner Dalton has noted to me. One, the very last line, it says Mr. Jenkins made a motion to adjourn the meeting and Mr. Jenkins seconded. So that would not be possible. I believe Mr. Dalton, as he typically does, made the motion and Mr. Jenkins then seconded. So that's one proposed amendment. The other proposed amendment was there's no mention at the end, also in that other business. We had a conversation about asking council to form a subcommittee to evaluate stormwater regulations moving forward. And so that is not noted in the minutes. And so if we could, someone maybe wants to propose those two amendments to it. Second, okay. All in favor of approving the minutes with those? Okay. Yeah. So staff will amend the minutes. Can we get those just redistributed? Just
yes, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. We'll redistribute them with the next meeting minutes if that's sufficient for the commission to have that documented.
Okay. Thank you. Public comment. This is an in-person meeting. Comments may be made by attendees upon registering for this in-person meeting and indicating you would like to speak. This meeting will also be publicly live streamed. Comments, though, cannot be accepted during the meeting using virtual methods. I believe we have at least a speaker, our friend. I think he only signed up.
We did not receive or sign up or pictures or anything with the presentation.
No presentation,
We
but
did not receive anything. Did you send anything?
did you send anything or just here to speak? But you did sign up to speak? Okay, all right. You know the drill of 3 minutes?
Okay, hi, I'm Athena Wallen, your resident creek dweller. I've been talking about Brookside Drive and development and trying to help figure out ways that we might be able to make changes to help better protect the environment, ecosystem, and habitat space around the required utility system of our stormwater creeks. I've mentioned that land around our stormwater creeks is unstable and rapidly eroding. These creeks are communities' resource of environmental resiliency, and these are complex ecosystems that require tree canopy and root systems. This land is being permanently marginalized by development, so we are losing buffer and we are losing area to rebuild that buffer. Brookside Drive has experienced a staggering loss of that riparian buffer and our ability to rebuild because impervious surface limits walk right up to a sewer easement. So we have an unfixed variable that is eroding next to a fixed variable that needs to maintain and be untouched by tragedy next to incoming impervious surfaces. I have wondered why I've been spending 2 years trying to wave down any amount of change and convey how detrimental this is for expansion of our cities into other different types of communities, not just my own. Then I realized Brookside Drive is in a transit overlay district. So parcels were automatically rezoned to be R10 and developers were also permitted to buy and build without any type of required community engagement. They do not have to go through the same design process as planning or group planning, and they do not require council oversight to continue forward. So let's change that. Please consider advocating that this type of text change for transit overlay districts, it could require additional parameters for development on creek-lined properties. This is one variable that we can theoretically change sooner rather than later to help offset and mitigate erosion and habitat loss and system loss. Creek streets, as I've been trying to advocate Brookside Drive can be, they require more nuance to development and they require more responsibility. Therefore, they require investment into that system. Impervious surface limits should not be taken into account or shouldn't be taking into account the riparian buffers and easements as their land area. And I also believe that development should invest in that riparian buffer restoration through runoff mitigation strategies like GSI. And if we have that text change for the TOD, that is one area that we can actually make a change sooner rather than later. So please figure out if that made any sense, if that is an avenue that we can pursue. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I believe, planning staff too, but transit overlays are quarter mile from a transit route or a stop.
I'd have to,
A half mile,
I'd
something
have
like
to
that.
double check that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Ben has been here. He might know better than I.
For sure.
You know, the transit overlay
Yes.
width from a, yeah, that's not something.
Yeah.
I think it is.
But it could be something to consider in this subcommittee.
Yeah.
Thank you, Athena. Let's see, we have stormwater staff updates, matters of importance.
Yeah. So, no stormwater staff updates, but we have some commission changes. If we'd like to go ahead and, discuss those now, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, two things of note. One, Colin McCarville is here as our new member. I'll let you give a 2-minute speech about who you are and what your interest in stormwater is.
Sure. My name's Colin Carville. I'm an architect here in Raleigh. I work for a company called Arcadis. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. But pretty rooting for the Sabres, so sorry, Kings fans. I have been living in North Carolina for the last 6.5 years or so. I was in Chapel Hill before that. My wife went to UNC Chapel Hill for grad school, so we moved for that. And then we moved down to Raleigh about 1.5 years ago and decided I wanted to find a way to, work with my community, and Stormwater Commission came up.
Welcome aboard.
Happy to be here.
And Marinelle has some news, unfortunately. Maybe she'll discuss.
Yeah, well, this will be my last meeting with the commission, and I'm really sad about that. This has been a really great information. I've had a lot of great experience being in the commission, and I've learned a lot. Thank you, Wayne, for being so hands-on. And to Scott and to all stormwater staff has been so accommodating to us, to me when I was asking for information, especially on the budget with the collaborative with Christina. I really, unfortunately, I need to resign, but I will still be here, and I will still be coordinating and being here in this meeting with you all as a constituent. So thank you for the opportunity.
And you're resigning because you're moving. So, right.
Yes,
So
yes.
you're leaving the city, and that's an unfortunate situation for
Yes.
us as residents, but
Yes.
you are moving.
But otherwise, I would have
Yes.
stayed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome, Colin. See you later, Marino, but please make sure your ship stop by and obviously keep us on our P's and Q's, so.
Thank you.
Wayne?
Yeah, so continuing, so the budget process for the city, does continue. We mentioned that we made our budget presentation for the proposed stormwater rate increases March 9th. That has been is being incorporated into the overall budget, proposal for the city. That presentation will be made by the city manager to council on May 19th. Certainly welcome to attend in person, or that will be streamed as well if you're interested in the overall city budget presentation. The next announcement, upcoming, later this month is Raleigh's birthday celebration. So very exciting. If you all have never, been, it's a great event. There's lots of city departments have tabling. There's the, Earth Day Awards, of which one of those will be the winners of the Capture It contest, which you all voted on. And lots of other very cool activities celebrating Earth Day. So please come to Dix Park on Friday, April 24th, if you're available. Reminder, and I think many of you have responded and even signed up for this, the Green Infrastructure Leadership Exchange meeting is in Raleigh this year from May 4th to 7th. Very exciting event. This is a national organization. Sally Hoyt is on their board of directors, our GSI advocate, not plan review supervisor. And I think she'll be humble, but she had a hand in helping bring this exciting event to Raleigh this year. And there's a lot of opportunity. I think some of you have signed up. If you haven't done that yet, let us know. We can get you a pass to attend some of the events for that leadership exchange meeting upcoming. And staff is very excited too. We have a number of people who will be attending and learning more about green stormwater infrastructure. Public meetings also can check the events on RaleighNC.com, but we've got the Marsh Creek Watershed Public Meeting upcoming on April 23rd from 4 to 6:30 p.m. If you've not been to one of our watershed meetings, this is quite a comprehensive opportunity. We have a tabling from many of our groups that will allow residents to learn more about drainage assistance and rainwater rewards, and a lot of the other programs that we do, as well as providing input on the watershed study itself. And Marsh Creek is in Northeast Raleigh, has had some historical flooding and other water quality issues. So lots of focus on that watershed specifically, but lots of good broad information available at that watershed meeting as well. And then stream monitoring workshop upcoming on May 12th from 12:30 to 3. More information online if you're interested in attending that event. And then there will be no rainwater rewards projects presented today. We've allocated the FY26 funding. But as we discussed last month, we will be bringing back projects at the June meeting, anticipating funding in the FY27 budget. So we can go ahead and start picking up approvals for that. So it's only a slight delay here. As mentioned during the budget presentation recently, we are proposing that the funding for that program increase in FY27. The funding this year was $500,000. We're proposing $1 million for FY27 funding for the Rainwater Rewards program. And as you know, with your approval and council approval, that program will be fully 90% funded citywide this year, as well as the 100% subsidy program will continue as well, with that incremental 10% funding coming from the Climate Action Fund from the city for qualified applicants that meet the income threshold, and as well as nonprofits are eligible for that 100% funding. So lots of good changes on rainwater rewards, and we'll bring that program back to you in June. Notices to construction for several drainage assistance projects that we're in the process of bidding and awarding. So expecting more and more work coming from the DA. Good to see those projects moving forward. And with that, be glad to ask any questions. That's all I had to present, Mr. Chair.
Just to note that there's the public meeting on the East Lane Street drainage project.
Oh, yes, that one didn't make it. That's a very good point, Mr. McMillan. I appreciate that. That is coming up. I do have that one on my calendar to make our agenda. That is Tuesday, the 14th. And I have it at the Tarboro Road Community Center from 5 to 6:30. Is that right, Money?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. We missed that one on our agenda. And this is the East Lane Pipeline Improvements Project. the capital improvements project you may have recalled stemmed from the house that fell in a private stormwater pipe that was failing. And this project will reroute stormwater flow. And we're proposing to keep it in the public right away, abandon the old privately owned stormwater pipe that was in people's backyards. It was failing. We're rerouting that as well as providing some additional capacity improvements to address some of the road flooding issues in that neighborhood. That's the Oakwood neighborhood. So it's an old legacy neighborhood that had no stormwater controls, was, built well before we had stormwater requirements or stormwater reviews. Nor did we have public easements on stormwater infrastructure. So one of those old legacy neighborhoods, but making lots of improvements to help with the infrastructure there. Thank you for raising that, Mr. Strickland.
Also, in the last month council meeting, council approved the text changes to the drainage assistance and the stream stabilization regulations.
Yes, and policy and
Policies
regulations.
that we had passed before.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Good point. And then those that consistent with the policy changes that were recommended by SMAC were approved by City Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for attending and helping pass along those recommendations.
Let's go with, does anybody else have any questions? Go to the Rain Garden Apprentice Program. Heather is here. Heather and Dory are going to talk to us about things that are happening over the first year of some things, some new programs.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here in front of you to talk about our Rain Garden Apprenticeship Program. It's growing more than rain gardens. And my name is Heather Montgomery. I oversee our water quality section. I'm here with Dory Brathmel, our community relations analyst. She is the lead staff. As you'll see, we collaborate with many folks, our Rainwater Rewards team, Urban Sustainability Solutions, Wake County Public Schools, and the community on this project. So today our agenda includes introducing our very valuable partner, Urban Sustainability Solutions. We'll talk about our partnership benefits, why Raleigh Stormwater wants to support a program like this in the city. We'll give you an overview and some details on the ground experiences that we've had with the Growing More Than Rain Gardens Apprenticeship Program over the past 12 months. We'll talk about 2 of the 4 schools as highlights, talk about next steps and answer any questions you might have. Michael Dupree, the founder and developer of the program, is here with us today. So at the end of our presentation, we'll be sure to give him a few moments in case we missed anything or if he wants to say a few comments as well. So yes, Urban Sustainability Solutions. Really want to uplift this 501c3. It was established in 2022. So it sounds like a relatively new community-based organization, but in fact, Mike has been around since 2010 doing garden apprenticeship programs with schools. So I actually had the pleasure of working with Mike Dupree at Durham County Government, so at Durham County Stormwater Conservation District, but we had a similar program to the R3 program. And Mike had developed the Bionomic Educational Training Center, or BETC, as we affectionately called it, in 2010. So when I came on board in 2018, that program had been going on for some time. It was award-winning, and to this day, Durham County Public Schools is still having the BETC program active in their schools. So it just talks about the sustainability that this program can have, even when city staff that were working on it have moved on. But Mike has a passion for this. And when Mike retired in 2021, he actually established this nonprofit. So he continued the work that he's passionate about. And so Urban Sustainability Solutions was created. And they have a board of directors with many influential folks in the room that may be part of that. They also have volunteers that help out. They have a small but dedicated full-time staff. And they actually have partner contractors who do some of the heavy lifting with their economic services as well. So their mission is to provide youth education program focused on environmental awareness while improving urban air and water quality through sustainable solutions. They do that by supporting teachers, engaging students, and serving communities. They have current contracts with Orange County Government and Carborough as well. We had a public RFP process, and in 2025, we were able to award a contract to Urban Sustainability Solutions to bring this program here. They had already piloted the program for a year at Millbrook High School, so we knew that they had some buy-in from the school system, and we wanted to continue to support that program this year and hopefully in the years to come. So, just because we like Mike or we like the program doesn't mean that we can support it. We need to have drivers. And this meets many of our regulatory requirements as well as our goals for the city. So this helps us meet our regulatory permit requirements for education and outreach and public involvement. It also supports academic growth and career pathways for both students and teachers. It enhances our community outreach, not just for our general stormwater education, but for our R3 program. There's a multi-generational impact that Dory will talk about in the next slides. It helps actually implement R3 projects. We actually implemented 5 projects this past year alone through the Urban Sustainability Solutions Partnership. They help us to maintain our city GSI as well through their work days. And it allows us to provide direct community reinvestment through stipends. So more than half of the funding that the city is providing this program goes directly back to teachers and students through stipends. So the way that our presentation is divided up is to some of the core components of this program that we'd like to highlight. That includes helping to build and grow teacher confidence and knowledge, academic growth and teamwork with the students, community-rooted connection, and green workforce development. So I'm going to hand it over to Dory to kind of go into more detail about this.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, so there are a lot of moving parts to this program. So like Heather said, we kind of broke it into different sections and different audiences. And so to start in the summer, before our school year begins, before the apprenticeship starts, we gather all of our teachers together for a 2-day workshop co-hosted with Urban Sustainability Solutions and the NC State Extension Office, where teachers learn all about stormwater runoff, impervious surfaces, nature-based solutions to our stormwater runoff issues and water quality impacts. And they learn how to teach this to their students. They do this by participating in lectures, they get out in the field and do measurements and create GSI case studies. And they also hear from teachers who have worked with Mike in the past. So the big part of this workshop obviously is to prepare them to lead the apprenticeship program in a few months or weeks. But they also receive a Rain Guard certificate at the completion of the program from the NC State Extension Office. And it's a really good way to help us build teacher confidence ahead of the apprenticeship. The students that are in our apprenticeship are not the only students that our teachers interact with on a daily or an annual basis. So we want to make sure that they leave the workshop feeling confident in their abilities to discuss GSI and all these nature-based solutions, whatever their students are interested in. It's also really important for building our teacher teams. Each school that we work with has a team of 3 to 6 teachers. And so this workshop is a great way to set the foundation for those teacher teams. So they can get that plans for the apprenticeship started early and go into the apprenticeship ready to work together and get all our students excited. Between the workshops and the actual apprenticeship starting, we have a lot of community engagement opportunities. So Mike will co-host a community meeting with the schools or with the teachers at the schools. They'll invite students, parents, family members, friends, neighbors, all to gather together to learn about GSI and different GSI resources that the city has. It's a great way for USS to find future sites for potential R3 projects to bring their students to. And it's also just a great way to get the community together to talk about solutions to stormwater runoff that might be affecting their neighborhood. All of these potential sites that USS finds at community meetings could eventually become R3 projects that students will implement. Or if the property owner doesn't want to go all the way through with an R3 project, those become case studies for the students to use in the actual apprenticeship course. So now we've finally gotten to the actual apprenticeship. There's a lot of prep that goes into all this work. We want to make sure we're ready for the students when they get there. So our students participate in a 6-week-long course led by USS and the teachers who participated in the workshop. They learn all about rain gardens, cisterns, why the benefits that they bring to our community, why we have them, and how to install them. There's a core curriculum that USS provides that teachers learn during the workshops. But teachers are able to kind of adapt that curriculum for what their students need. We have some students who are really excited to learn about cisterns. They have a cistern course. They have a basic rain garden course. There's an advanced rain garden course. So teachers are able really to kind of pick and choose what they want what their students are excited about and what their students need, and adapt the curriculum for what their students are looking for. We also want to make sure that we know what our students are learning throughout the program. So we have pre, mid, and post assessments throughout, from the beginning all the way to the end of the program, which I'll go through some of those results in a moment. And of course, program ends with students actually either installing or maintaining an existing GSI device. If they're installing a device, it's through the R3 program that I was mentioning earlier. And if they are maintaining one, it's with our GSI maintenance crew. So far they have worked at 2 parks, Walnut Creek Wetland Park and Biltmore Hills. This spring, they will also work at Bailey Lake Park as well. So in addition to just getting this practical experience of installing or maintaining a nature-based solution for something that they've learned about in a class for 6 weeks, we also have extra activities for them. We go out in the creek and do macroinvertebrate sampling. Sometimes they do invasive species removal or tree planting. And while these activities aren't necessarily directly related to GSI installation maintenance, they're still related to stormwater and protecting our watersheds. So all of our students learn all about all this impact in their classes and then get to actually be a part of the solution to finish out the apprenticeship. In addition, it's also just a great way for them to build their professional networks early. Neil and Drew from the GSI maintenance team have participated in a lot of our cohorts, and our students love learning from them. Whenever I go out and participate, I always hear our students getting to ask them questions, and Neil and Drew being awesome mentors, which is awesome to see. And of course, our teachers and students are paid for their time during their work days. So that's how the program works. I'm happy to go back and explain anything or in more details if I need to. But to kind of summarize our first year, we had 4 schools participate from Millbrook High School, Sanderson High, Southeast Raleigh High, and South Garner. Millbrook had 2 cohorts, so we had a total of 5 cohorts from 4 schools. Across those cohorts, we had 156 students complete the program, meaning that they attended all 6 classes and the workday. Attendance is required. If you miss one, you do have to make it up. And then 23 teachers completed the workshops and then went on to become trained in the apprenticeship program. And so a quote from one of our participating teachers reads that the parent and student and teacher partnership is a pillar of the program, resulting in the positive educational outcome of caregivers increasing their science literacy in tandem with the student participating in the apprenticeship. So like I said earlier, it's not really a bubble. The work that our teachers learn and share with their students doesn't stay in the apprenticeship. It goes beyond that to parents, friends, neighbors. And so that's really been an awesome thing to see kind of grow from this program. The community connection has been not something we totally expected, but it's been really cool to see grow and lots of fun stories have been popping up. And so we have some data to back this up as well. Like I mentioned earlier, those pre, mid, and post assessments kind of evaluate students on key focal areas. They're evaluated by Dr. Kevin Curry at Penn State University, who found there was a statistically significant increase in 5 focal areas. First being knowledge, meaning that their general understanding of the stormwater system increased from the beginning to the end of the program. Their beliefs towards positive environmental change increased. Their attitudes towards improving water quality in their community increased. The likelihood to engage in positive behaviors for the environment and the stormwater system increased. And their intentions to engage in future positive environmental behaviors also increased. So it's great to see some of that data. And our students are noticing these changes in themselves as well. 98% of the participants believe that the program changed the way that they think about stormwater and the environment. And a quote from a student says that, "I like learning about something that impacts the environment in a way that I never considered and getting to actively participate in solving the issue." So that's really the hallmark of this program. Our students get to learn all this stuff in the classroom. They get to become experts in rain gardens or cisterns, or even advanced rain gardens if they take that course. And then they get to actively participate in making that change in their community. Oftentimes we try to find projects that are near their schools. They're probably near their neighborhood. So these are projects that they get to see regularly when they're driving around or just going around their neighborhood. And our students have been working really hard. Across their work days, they have about 1,200 hours of service, which is valued at almost $44,000. So while they are getting a really good educational and mentorship opportunity, they're also creating really good value service for the city. We have a lot of GSI to maintain, and we have a lot of GSI projects to install through the R3 program. So it's great to see that the students aren't just getting an educational experience, they're also creating valuable work for the city. And then from those R3 projects that were installed, there was an additional 20, nearly almost a little over 2,700 square feet of impervious surface treated by those newly installed R3 projects that you guys probably voted on. Thank you for that. Here are some of those R3 projects. So they were a mixture of rain gardens and cisterns. And I do want to highlight this lovely couple up here who are Nick and Sarah Scanlon, who are teachers at Millbrook High School, who attended the workshop, learned about GSI and wanted to bring it to their property. And they more specifically wanted Millbrook students to bring it to their property. So they worked with USS and R3 and were able to have the Millbrook students install a rain garden in their house. And look at how lovely it is. And so like we said, we've had a lot of cool stories start to pop up from this program. It's still fairly new, so we're excited for more stories to come. But some initial ones that we've picked up from Millbrook High School, obviously there's the Nick and Sarah Scanlon rain garden story, but they also came into the program with a really strong agricultural background. And they already had some GSI devices on site that are kind of in need of some repair. And the teachers are really excited to see this program continue to grow and possibly see how the students can get involved with that repair and maybe turn that into a horticulture business where they can eventually grow native plants and sell them to help fund their agriculture program. An added fun bonus story from Millbrook is that this teacher right here, Mr. Ryan Bergler, when he was the student's age, actually received an environmental award from the city of Raleigh, similar to what you guys voted on last month, for a rain barrel business that he had when he was their age. So that really goes to show that having these professional opportunities and being recognized for them at this young, influential age does set you up for a future career serving your community, whether it's teaching or as an engineer or architect.
Sorry, but did you mention that Ryan was also Teacher of the Year?
Oh, he was Teacher of the Year in 2024. Yes. Yep.
Great teachers working with the kids.
Yes. Our next school that we want to highlight is from Southeast Raleigh High. So Southeast Raleigh High came in with a more of an engineering background. They have an engineering academy that teaches students creativity and leadership and skills kind of beyond the technical application of engineering. So their students come in with a very well-rounded and interdisciplinary background to this program, which has been really cool to see their students kind of learn about GSI from the beginning and take those other skills that they've learned in their engineering academy all the way to the installation or maintenance of a project, excuse me. And we also want to highlight from Southeast Raleigh High that we've seen a lot of community connection. Typically during their work days, they have been going to local churches and helping them design potential rain gardens that they may install in the future through R3 or through other means. So seeing that added community connection has been really cool to see from Southeast, and we're excited to see it continue to grow in Southeast and our other schools that we work with. With that, I will hand it back to Heather.
Great. So again, this has all been accomplished in a year, which is incredible in my mind. And although we do talk about Mike, I do want to give credit to Alex and Jane. There are other folks working with Mike full time who have been wonderful as well from the USS team. But to recap these achievements, we had 4 teams of teachers, 25 total, that received classroom and field instruction, as well as the NC State Rain Garden certification, which is a professional certification that many of us in Stormwater have. So it is a pretty big deal. 156 students in a 6-week program with statistically significant post-program improvements, which we love that kind of data, you know, because we can see it makes a difference, but to have data back it up is pretty awesome. I mean, how many times do you have a survey that 98% of people say that it made a difference? I thought that was pretty huge. Community connections. So 9 community meetings were held. Again, that is done with the teachers helping to recruit community members. The parents are there, the students. From those meetings, 80 community members came out. And out of that, there were 42 site visits, which 42 site visits alone is pretty incredible. But that means, you know, let's say there were parents, 2 people, almost every household got a site visit. And those site visits, even if they weren't one of the 5 projects this year, anytime in the next 5 years could be a potential R3 project. And then also having the students and teachers help provide those solutions is wonderful. And again, 5 R3 projects were actually implemented from conception to completion in 12 months. 1,300 hours in 2 workdays. So it's a lot of kids and teachers working to help maintain our city's assets while getting that mentorship from our staff. And then a hands-on intro to a variety of green careers. So someone may say, you know, I'm not really into the cisterns and the rain gardens, but I really like that stream monitoring that Joyce showed us how to do. So it just really shows like a broad swath of careers that students could get into that are interested in the environment. And again, the teachers and students earn the stipends. And that's important because we know sometimes teachers have to get second incomes. So we can help provide additional income to teachers so they can do what they love to do instead of being spread thin over other careers. That's wonderful. And we love to also have students earn money with pretty hard work out getting dirty. So, and again, I just want to recap that these are helping us to meet our regulatory and non-regulatory requirement, or our regulatory requirements and our strategic goals, including the education and outreach permit requirements, the academic growth and career pathways for teachers and students, the outreach, the multi-generational impact, implementing R3 projects, maintaining city GSI, and reinvesting in the community. At Southeast Raleigh High School, I think that's also where a student's parents and grandparents had R3 come out to do site consultation. So that's another intergenerational type of example. We want to keep this growing. So we are going to go to council in May 19th, to propose an amendment for some sustained funding for the next 18 months. We'd love to have 70 teachers and 350 students participate in the next 18 months. We want to have a new teacher symposium to create that network. So you have the more experienced teachers mentor some of the newer teachers, and again, create that confidence and support that teachers need to be conducting this type of teaching in their classrooms. We'll have 14 community meetings, creating 80 site plans is our goal. We're going to have school sites be part of those site plans because we've already started working with Lake County Public Schools with the Carnage Middle School Stream Repair Program or project, but we'd really love to see more GSI on school projects. So how wonderful would it be to have students and teachers who are on these sites walk the site, propose the projects, help design them, help install them, and help maintain them as well, with a team of teachers that can help sustain that over time. So that would be a great goal. So that's going to be included in the next 18 months. And then students were so excited at Southeast Raleigh to participate in the program. They want to do it again. They're like, how can we participate again? So they are going to be offering an advanced level summer internship as well in the next 18 months. So those are some of the ways that we want to enhance the program, continue the benefits that we're getting in the partnership. And I will stop there so we can give Mike a few minutes or a few words, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hello, thank you. You two ladies have done a job. You know, this was a concept in 2009. And it was a pilot in Durham in 2010. And I'm so excited that Urban Sustainability Solutions is now working in 3 counties. We're going to train 450 kids this year. We trained 190 last year with 156 here in the city of Raleigh. I am so happy that City of Raleigh is putting the funding into this program. I don't think you can find a better way to spend your money. Community engagement, water quality, the effect on environmental literacy. I'm a little biased in that after spending 16 years in developing this whole concept plan. But it takes all pieces. And so when I first started this concept in 2010, it's, you know, good water quality work is good STEM education. And good STEM education can lead to better community engagement. And so our whole platform is built on that principle. Urban Sustainability Solutions is really about helping people with less. So we're very interested in helping low-income households that can't afford to do GSI on their property. And we have written and administered several grants and communities to help reduce that financial burden on low-income households to improve their property, improve their quality of life by installing that GSI, which also improves the community water source. But it also gives us an opportunity to help the kids that need the help the most by putting $220 in their pocket. And having 3 curricula now with the possibility of adding a 4th that we want to work on this summer, it gives students the opportunity to work and learn and earn and eventually work towards gaining their North Carolina State University certificates and rainwater certification, rainwater harvesting, stormwater control measure, construction and maintenance, maybe even start their own business and do that within their community. So, and then we like to pay teachers because as a former educator during public schools, a science teacher many moons ago, teachers have to get a part-time job these days. And why don't we give them an opportunity to do what they love to do, a teaching and after-school program, helping their own household with the income. So you showed the Stanlins, who are math teachers, by the way. Is there any math used in stormwater calculations? Is that real world? So you would be amazed when we take students on a site and we give them measuring tapes and wheels and ask them to measure and calculate volume. And so this is all just really great experience for the kids. And at the Walnut Creek Wetland Center, Dory was able to witness how the students among themselves were arguing over the angle of the roof and how that should change the volume calculation. I thought that was just so fantastic. So it's real world application, and the teachers love it for that reason, because this is when we're doing projects in the field, it is real world application of math. And so engaging students in that is such a tremendous benefit to everyone involved. So I appreciate the opportunity to be in Raleigh and have this funding to get a program started.
Thank you, Mike.
Like that.
Be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the program.
What is the change in the funding? You mentioned 18 months and it was a bit bigger. Then would you have to come back in 18 months and ask for funding again?
Well, that's a great question. So as Mike said, he is leveraging grant funding as well. So we have been funding the program for the year was $250,000.
125 for March to March.
Okay, 125, excuse me. So, and then we are going to be asking for about 300,000.
For 18 months?
Again, half of that.
I'll
and
interject.
Again, half of that does go directly back through student stipends. So,
So 2024, the program was piloted in Raleigh. We had 2 R3 projects that we assisted low-income landowners with. We act as the bank to help them get the R3 projects. Millbrook High was involved. So we delivered 25,000 of outside funds to the community and started the program. And last year, we had $60,000 in cash grant funds and $60,000 in in-kind match to go with the $125,000 that the city of Raleigh. So we are almost 50-50. I can't project because we have several grants pending right now. So I can't project what cash match we'll have this year, but probably similar to last year.
yeah, we'd love to extend, obviously, where we can get grants and work to leverage with our community partners. We would love to have the money go further. I do think it's a great investment. We do have the breakdown, if you'd like to see that, of where the money goes. USS is actually getting quite a small portion of that for the work that they're doing, but a lot of it's going back to the community.
Sounds like a great program. Great to see the success of it. Yeah, appreciate the continued, moving forward. I can see a lot of growth in this program.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to echo that and say, this is an amazing project to see the city investing in. I used to be an educator and would have loved the opportunity to do something like this as a high school teacher. So just great to see, and thank you for all the energy y'all put into it.
Well, thank you. And we have, limited staff capacity. So part of our regulated requirement is to go into the classroom and provide stormwater education. So the fact that we can teach the teacher, and it's not just for this year or as long as the apprenticeship goes on, but it's for generations to come, as well as the community rootedness. A lot of trust being built out there through word of mouth, through family members and community members of churches. So we are finding it very effective on the ground for many of the programs we're trying to advance.
I think adding the summer program can keep kids being connected and just giving them more ideas and bring other kids to it. So that's a great add.
Wonderful. Yeah, we were able to have that in Durham County Public Schools, and it was a really great way to keep a lot of the kids busy and earning money and doing great work.
The workforce development is a huge issue right now, so
Sure, and there's
this
a lot of
is
opportunity.
tremendous that maybe some kid wants to be an engineer or a landscape architect out of this, or go into construction or maintenance of SEMs at some point. Maybe 2% of those kids decide to do it. I think it's a success.
Yeah, there was one student who participated in, there's a mural by outside of Weaver Street Market where they painted a storm drain. So one of the students did that last year and is now a participant in this program. And I overheard her talking to her friends about what they wanted to do when they were growing up. And she said she wanted to be a water engineer. So there is at least one.
And I would say when I was younger, I didn't even think about local government as a career. Service to the community. I didn't have the ability to interact with local government staff to see how diverse the work that is being done by municipal government workers in the community. So I think that's also a really neat one. We have a very small GSI maintenance crew right now. We could certainly use more help and more hands, and who knows, as that group hopefully grows, maybe some of these kids will be graduated and can apply for internships and help join our team as well.
Thank you for giving us the update. Yeah, appreciate it. Awesome. Next on our agenda is the planning commission and SMAC liaison. Ellen Cherry, Ben will be here, and Samantha. Then we also have a specific case that last month we decided to have the applicant come forward. So that's zoning case 3825 for Trailwood Drive, but maybe there's some other ones as well.
So we kind of switched up the agenda, if you noticed. So we've got the normal update, which is just fairly short. Then we got a presentation from the applicant for Z38, and that's going to lead right into me and Sally and James's talk about floodplain regulations and management in Raleigh. So there's a potential for many questions, so you can either hold them till the end or all throughout. Anyway, with the council and planning commission update, we have one case that came out of planning commission in the Northeast. We have the Z38 case, which I just referenced, we have a presentation on second. We have a Z29 case that's also on Trailwoods that is adjacent to that case that actually had the public hearing on Tuesday night. And then we have the South New Hope Road case that we've talked about a fair amount that had their public hearing on Tuesday as well. So jump right in. So this is the case that came out of planning commission at their past meeting, Z3525, 3929 Legan Mill Road. The reason this was of interest because it backs up to the News River. It's actually on the east side of the News River, about 60 acres almost. Currently in the county, so it will have to be an annexation that is approved and get annexed. And it's an R30 designation for Wake County, which basically means lots of 30,000 square feet or more. And they're requesting an R6 conditional use designation from Raleigh, which is 6 units per acre. So obviously going to much more dense. But they are capping their residential units at 180. They do have some various conditions for open space and undisturbed area, which is interesting. And they do have increased sanitation controls adjacent to the News River. And there's also accounting for the easement for the Greenway corridor that's on the News River there. And public hearing date will be set at the next city council meeting, which is April 21st. So the quickest this could be would be May 5th date, but
I believe the staff report was recommending, the middle of May council meeting, which is May 19th. So any questions on this one? And this is what it looks like currently. So I haven't heard this from the applicant, and Sally can correct me if she has, but based on just a rough estimate that, someone in planning did for me yesterday when we were reading about this, the undisturbed area of 20% looks to be about the floodplain. Approximately, when you measure it up by now. But I don't know if that's what the applicant was presuming, because I've not asked them that question specifically throughout the commission. And they did not mention that plan commission, but this was approved by the plan commission, 8-0.
Have a buffer on that stream to the pond, and assuming that's the blue line stream.
We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Since it's so close, since this navy blue line is the drain or the basin line there, I'm not sure how much water that's actually in it. So they'll have to make that assessment for letting and see if that's a buffered feature or not. But if it is, then they'd obviously have to protect it or get the state's approval to drain that pond and kind of do something else there.
And the sedimentation controls, the increased sedimentation controls.
It was increased or super silt fence. They had actually made a note of doing along the News River side of the site.
Okay, along
That's what they said. Yeah, not necessarily at like News River, but this side of the site.
That's where the western is.
Yeah. Which it's all falling towards that side. So.
You talk more about the easement for the Greenway corridor.
Uh,
How does that work?
So, it was essentially just saying that they would have an easement to the existing Greenway corridor that's out there now. And I'm not exactly sure which side of the river of the Greenway is out here, to be honest with you. So, but that condition was a little bit murky, but I didn't want to include it because, the planning commission reps were pretty excited about it. Yeah, we talked about it.
Like maybe access to.
Yeah, access to the existing.
They're
Greenway.
gonna-
Yeah, it looks like it's on the other side.
The city has trouble getting to the greenway.
Yeah. But that would be, obviously another area that couldn't be developed. That is. So.
I appreciate you bringing up the undisturbed area percentage. I think that was something that I continues to try to wrap my mind around is, if the floodplain protections are already required and in place, then it's not an additional condition to commit to 20% undisturbed area on top of that. And I think that's just something that is worth mentioning.
This is what it looks like currently, so it's undeveloped. All right, so moving on to the cases from city council this past Tuesday. 1116 to 1126 Trailwood Drive. This is just to the south of the Z38 case, which we're about to hear about here. So there's two parcels here that actually have a single family residential house in them currently. They are currently zoned R4, and then moving to an R10 conditional use designation. There were no stormwater conditions offered for this one, but there's no floodplain on it either. And then you have, and it looks like it could be a buffer here, but that's not all straight lines, and we'll have to figure that out in permitting. But it is adjacent to the current Z22, 23 zone site, but they're under a proposed rezoning of Z38 25, which is these three parcels here, sorry. And this case was actually approved on Tuesday night city council meeting. And there was another one on Trailwood, which was at the top of the hill. I didn't include, just FYI, there's 3 rezonings currently on this one stretch of road. So there was discussion about that Tuesday night as well. And it was actually one of the first times I've ever been attending these where every case had a pro and a con side on Tuesday night. So pretty interesting. Everyone was very involved in all the rezonings.
And all of Trailwood is ETJ.
Except for the ones that have been annexed. Like
Yeah, okay, but not, that site we just saw way up in Ligon Mill would have to truly be annexed in. This is already an ETJ. I mean, it still has to be.
Well, I believe the one on Ligon Mill is still ETJ as well.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I'll double check that. Okay. So it's like currently, like I said, it's currently one single family house on these 2 lots. So
Yeah.
if you, if you've driven by and been out there, the driveway is on the northern lot and the house is on the southern lot. Obviously, that would be, if they develop, they would recombine. And the last one was in Old Town off South New Hope Road and Rock Quarry. This is that area where it's got the commercial piece of Old Town subdivision, and they were looking to get an allowance for more residential units. And we've talked about it a fair amount, especially in concert with the one on the western side of South New Hope Road that actually got withdrawn. If you remember that one, that was in the floodplain and looking for just housing to changing that to. So this is still going to keep a commercial component, just a little bit smaller, and add some residential units. And they had some other triggers in there for how many residential units would have to be approved before the commercial kind of kicked in. So there was a lot of discussion about that. There is no or were no stormwater conditions associated with this one. It is kind of straddling a watershed boundary, so it's at the top of the hill. But this was approved at the Tuesday night city council meeting as well.
Any questions for any of these cases?
And with that, I'll transition to Molly Stewart, C-38.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here this afternoon. Molly Stewart, Morningstar Law Group. I'm the land use attorney representing the applicant for Z38. And it's always fun to have an attorney in the room. So despite the informality of this process, one of my roles is to make sure that my client, the applicant here faces a fair review through the city process. And to that end, I do need to ask how many of you here may have taken a public position on the ultimate question already of whether this rezoning should be approved or denied. We have none.
Are you asking as individuals?
I'm asking if someone may have signed a letter or in any way put in front of our city review process an opinion on whether the rezoning should be approved or denied.
Yeah, so as you well know, Partners for Environmental Justice, which I'm a member of the board, has submitted a letter.
And you're the only one. Okay. Then I need to ask whether it is your plan to recuse yourself from this conversation as well, or participate in both capacities.
I don't believe that I am required to recuse myself from this conversation, although I don't know that we've had that discussion in the past.
Yeah, good question.
SMAC does not have a formal role in the rezoning process, only expressing opinions. So, given that this is really just a consensus development, I don't see the need. I'm not an attorney, so I can't express a legal opinion. But my guidance would be that there's no need for recusal given it's not a formal process.
Understood. So given the appearance of conflict, if nothing else, at a minimum here, unfortunately, I'm not able to continue to participate in that situation. I have submitted some slides. We actually never intended a presentation in any event. We were simply told that this was a matter of the commissioners being curious, and we were happy to answer those questions. And to that end, I submitted slides. Hopefully those images will be helpful to you. We thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
They just refused to discuss it with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Right. No, definitely just refused to discuss it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
yeah,
I find that very interesting.
Yeah, me too.
sure.
Yeah,
Are you
Leave
sure you're
it
okay with that situation? That you're not gonna talk at all anymore?
I represent my client here.
So this is your client has asked you to do this, not your call.
Certainly to ensure that there is no conflict and that there are no predetermined positions in this group, which the city does value the opinions.
Does the client value the opinions of this group?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You said the city values the opinions of this group. Does the client value the opinions of this group?
We would prefer to proceed in a situation without a conflict.
So the conflict, if you give her the conflict, she would just say she's recusing herself from the current conversation that you're having with us?
Exactly.
Does that mean she has to leave the room? Or she can sit here and listen?
That's up to the board. It's a matter of participation.
Who is your client? Well, I'll look it up if you.
Sure, it's Floresta LLC.
Okay.
You're the property owner.
Who was that again?
Floresta.
Florestel.
If the rest of the Stormwater Commission would prefer to have the conversation, I'd be happy to voluntarily recuse myself, though. I think that it would be worth having a conversation about this potential issue coming up again. I will say that I'm a volunteer member of the board, as many of us are, and that board takes positions as a unit, and this is a separate body which also takes positions. And, you know, we take positions together, and so it's not just my choice. But I think that is a conversation we haven't had to have yet, so.
Understood.
And we don't provide.
Yeah, we're here for discussion. There's not like,
Yeah, we're
not
here to-
against you or for you or
For
anything
you
like
or
that.
against-
It's supposed to be
Yeah.
informative
This is
session,
just
so,
informational.
you know, I don't even know what it means for her to accuse herself of it. She doesn't say a lot during the meeting, which I don't think anybody has a problem with.
Also, as a private citizen, she's involved with another organization, and she's only put forth those opinions in that entity as that person. She's here serving in a different role here. And I think she's professional enough to serve in this role and serve in that role as a private citizen. I'm slightly disappointed you would see it otherwise.
I was gonna also note, to be candid, it's being recorded, so if she chose to watch it, there'd be no difference between her watching it later.
Yeah.
Sitting
they'll
here.
use it.
Certainly, witnessing is no problem. That's right. And very frequently, there are conflicts that come up on various boards where people have another role in the community, and those roles, you know, one is to be objective and one is to take a position, and that is a fairly common reason for recusal.
Did you know that was a?
Sure, I
Okay.
wasn't sure if anyone else had also submitted the letter,
Of course you know.
but yes, I'm aware of this letter. Yeah.
We know she's involved with PEJ. That's in her own, a different capacity than she is here. And
So I don't think there's any problem with Samantha recusing herself from the media discussion while she presents. Unless you guys have a problem with that.
I mean, but it then becomes, you know, it becomes important and you all.
I think
are
that's
taking some
dangerous.
action.
precedent.
Yeah,
We're not
I don't-
gonna-
I
That's a
don't
slippery
support
slope.
that.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, who's to come in here? I'm a developer, but I have nothing to do with developing in the city of Raleigh. They're gonna recuse me. You're an engineer. They're gonna ask you.
I
to
Yeah.
recuse you.
I agree.
I mean, that's a
if you're not, I
slippery
guess if
slope.
you're not willing to take commentary from our group, then that's what we're here to do, is to make your case better.
And we regret that.
We will still review slides and maybe we'll provide commentary.
If you want to just ask Ben to flip through the
Yeah,
slides.
I guess if that's the will of the group, I guess if that's
Yeah.
you guys.
I think Robert's point about the precedent is an important one for us to think through before.
I'd be interested what the city's attorney's position is on that.
Yeah.
Clarification.
So, be honest, I glanced at these slides. I don't know, I do have a few of my own too.
We're not expecting you to explain.
It's completely lost. It's completely lost. I did make three of my own. It's something happened. On the left is the approved site plan for the previous development that was approved by the city of Raleigh. And they've got the designation for the floodway and floodplain. I can't tell you, like I said, I'm not sure what's on the next one. But the city did approve a flood study to encroach into the floodway fringe. And they had to show a no rise based on the development plan that you see here. So that was approved last year. So,
And just on the right-hand side, that the pink is the,
the pink is the floodway fringe and the blue is the floodway.
yes, okay. Yeah.
Looks like these are the cross sections for the flood study that was approved by city staff. Once again, just showing the development they were approved to do before, that was all on the west side of Trailwoods, which the rezoning incorporates another lot on the east side of Trailwoods into this updated request. Zoom in on those figures. And then at this stage, this is the only condition that they offered. Staff has pushed back and asked because we don't feel like this is enforceable. And at last, speaking with the applicant's representatives on Mondays, they were going to revamp this condition and make it more enforceable in city staff's eyes. We have not seen anything from that. In order for the date of the public hearing to be set at the April 21st meeting, they would have to get conditions into the city by Friday, tomorrow. So, and if they don't get the conditions in by Friday and they don't get on the next city council agenda to set the public hearing could not be May 5th. It would have to be pushed back probably to June, the first week of June. But this was referencing the old flood study with the old flood study and the old, the existing flood study and the existing approval. But staff doesn't feel comfortable setting any regulations on and existing approval that can expire. So.
Yep, can I make a quick comment on that too? So, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, this condition seems to imply they would like to not have to do a flood study if a new site plan was incorporated.
If I may, we got a clarification on that.
Okay.
So, when we initially read this, we made some assumptions about the intent. And then in our conversation on Monday, and when I spoke at planning commission, I said that this was not equivalent to the previous case's condition, which was to have a no rise. When we spoke Monday with the applicant's team, we understood that actually was not their intent. And they said that they were intending to be at least as stringent as the previous case. And we said that that would require to explicitly state that a no rise was being done. And then they said they offered this because they were trying to not impact more than was shown in this previous. But this gets to what Ben brought up in terms of enforceability. So we recommended a different way to word this that would be more enforceable. I put a flood study would still be required if there was anything proposed in the.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so in a nutshell, and everyone, what I was going to say, but I appreciate Sally's clarification and update. A condition cannot preclude a requirement of the UDO. So they couldn't write a condition that said they don't have to do another flood study if they do work that's similar, right? Staff does not have the authority to exclude any UDO requirements, and a condition can't do that. So as Sally said, still need to require a flood study submittal that would document a no rise or a PE stamp, something that said the other one is still valid based on the exact same conditions being proposed, right?
Yeah, that's like standard.
Right, yeah.
I have a question. With the flood study, does it include the hydraulic model?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And that is publicly, it will be released publicly or accessible to the public?
Yes.
Yeah,
Just like
that's all,
everything else,
that's all. good.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
It's the draft, like I said, I don't know if it's. Like that's mentioned in the right certification in accordance with the design manual.
So is this the one you were expecting to receive by tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still.
But that would be turned through planning, like this doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. Yeah. So that would have to, there has to be submitted.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any prior?
And these were current conditions that are on the current zoning case.
Okay. Are they proposed to be
With the current conditions they've turned in, this was not a part of it.
Right, so they're only proposed in one condition with the new rezoning.
Correct. But if they have more conditions to turn in tomorrow, or,
Right, okay,
or at some other date, then maybe, but
right.
this is the current thing that speaks more to, GSI and kind of building within the floodplain.
Sorry, this was the last condition from the last reason. Okay.
Yeah, the one that's on the books right now. It's been
Okay.
approved and all.
They're allowed to do it per these conditions.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the current case that's proposed currently does not have this in there. I don't know if they're looking to add this condition in there, because we did not speak about that on.
Okay, just, I'm very curious, would they still do this since it has been approved last time?
They can do this today, yes.
Okay, because it was
That was
approved
approved,
before.
Yeah, with the old with the site plan that was approved.
But to be enforceable on this new case, they would have to include something like this.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. So,
Correct.
so they're saying they're not doing any GSI for this current? Or they're not doing this?
This is just-
The GSI condition. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Interesting.
As the case officially stands now, there is no GSI condition. They could be potentially submitting one, but
Mhm.
only the applicant would know that.
Interesting.
And this is just comparing current zoning to the flood zone. This one side looks like the area, I like yellow, and that lot on, the eastern side of Trailwoods is what they're adding. And the, northern lot on the, west side is pretty much the majority of it, the vast majority of it is floodplain.
No floodplain on the eastern parcel over southern.
Correct.
It's just that one parcel that. But now all three parcels are part of this reason.
And just to clarify, there's no commitment from the developer on zero disturbance within the 100-year floodplain?
Correct.
Okay.
Open for discussion. Yes, when we discussed this a month ago, correct me if I'm wrong, that's when I know that we had some conversation about the idea that it's interesting that a case is coming back on the same parcel, but not putting the same, items put forth, given its sensitivity to the floodplain and stuff. Certainly they have to comply with the flood no rise or the flood model and, all the regulations there, but to not propose putting in any green stormwater infrastructure while it's previously been approved of that. I think that and or additional sedimentation control, which is somewhat one of our concerns as well with sites like this. There's the during construction and the post stormwater conditions are the two that seem to have been our concerns with sites like this most recently.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, I'm looking at this case next to the other cases that we as a commission have decided to engage on. And I think historically, we have decided to make comment on cases that include floodplain encroachment and that are potentially adjacent to impaired waterways. And those factors are present here. And so I think from a matter of consistency and how we engage on cases, I think it may make sense for us to discuss this and consider commenting on it. I also am just thinking about the amazing presentation we got just before this about the city's investment in green stormwater infrastructure, the, comprehensive plans, really robust commitment to protecting the floodplain and
wildlife protection, and I think that as a body, you know, we operate in this space between, you know, trying to make the comp plan a reality as much as possible, and I think that this is an opportunity to see that through, and so. Yeah, I think I think it might be helpful for us to get the presentation that we're going to get next about floodplain rules. And then maybe delay our vote on, whether or not we formally comment as a body until after we hear that presentation in case it's helpful for us. But I would make a motion to delay that vote until after that presentation, if we are going to make a vote on formally engaging as a commission.
We have a second on that motion. Discussing.
And I don't mean to cut the discussion short. I think if others would like to talk further now, that makes sense.
Question about this. So they have an approved rezoning case, right, with a new site, that they committed to the, and that was prior to the new UDO, right? Is that what we're doing here? And now they're coming back with a.
When was that? When was
Just
it?
prior to the new stormwater.
This case, it has multiple rezonings on it.
Okay.
The last rezoning it had was after our current flood regulations were effective. So before that, there was another case from 2021 that was on the same property that they did incorporate the proposed floodplain text change language that we were working on at that time. By the time this one came through 2022, we had changed DDO at that point. So, but, so it holds as far as a little bit of technicality there, because this one has been back and forth a decent amount.
And the approved site plan was approved
Correct.
in
2025.
Okay, with those, meeting those conditions of the 22 case.
Okay.
So why is it up again if it was already approved? And they don't want to tell us that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think obviously we need to report the situation of the chain
Yeah.
that we asked for some discussion and it was avoided. I don't really know if we can. I mean, I second we go through the next thing and talk about it a little bit more, but
I do think that knowing what we know now and knowing that there's a lot of complexities here and that we need a lot of information, I do think it is, we can decide if we want to comment now. I mean, we have all the information. There is no GSI or flood control measures that they have offered. And there's a lot of things that they are lacking.
They've
And I
offered
think-
some flood, they're gonna comply with flood
Right, but like some,
regulations.
And they would have to comply with the new stormwater.
Yeah.
It's just the stormwater manual doesn't require a certain percentage of GSI.
No, nor does it require additional sedimentation, erosion sedimentation. control.
so then are you saying the new rules are less restrictive, so they want to get a new permit and build one?
I mean, well,
No, they
the
current
current zone property now has a condition on it for GSI.
Yeah.
Which is above and beyond our current UDO.
They're going for a different zoning, so it's, right now it's R10, or R6 and R4, and they're going for RCX, or sorry, potential for commercial, residential 10. So it's just a different density.
All we're seeing is that they're doing less to treat the stormwater in the floodplain effectively, that because no one's explained to us.
It's currently zoned R4/R6 conditional use, and they're going to RX3, which is essentially a 3-story commercial building. It's like an apartment building.
Yeah, once you do the exits, yeah.
And in the packet for planning, it stated the intention was to create more density. And that's the.
All right, we have a motion on the table to table this until after we have a discussion. I think we have a second. Barrett.
Sure.
You'd like to take a vote on that? After the discussion. Take a vote on that motion. All in favor of delaying our commentary until after we learn more? Let's say yes. All against? Okay, some people have abstained. Okay, but we will have a commentary after we learn more about floodplain regulations in the program.
All right. So we are now talking about our floodplain regulations and overall program. Continuing our series for development regulations that we've looked at. We've already looked at post-construction stormwater and erosion and sediment control, and now we're looking at floodplains. Did this one a little bit differently because we have a floodplain management program and also a regulatory side that works together. Luckily, they're both under my purview, so I can kind of combine it. So we'll be kicking off with me, kind of like a broad overview. And this is actually a mission statement we have specifically for floodplain as far as to reduce flood risk, to be more resilient, and to in and around the floodplain. So floodplain's treated a little bit differently for us. What we'll be looking at is actually the preservation of the floodplain, why that's important, how we do that through like regulations and through city activities, and then kind of our mitigation and grant activities and our future work. So obviously going to focus on a lot of the regulations because that's what this group is worried about, but I did want to give you a piece of the bigger picture that it's not just about the regulations and how we deal with floodplain in the city. During the floodplain, so obviously the natural floodplain functions. We have higher floodplain standards to observe more of the floodplain as open space, because the more you have that floodplain as an open space, it gives creeks room to expand during high storm events and things like that. So that's good for public safety. That's good for environmental quality, and it's just an easier floodplain to manage when you're not using structure and you're using more natural environment to manage that. The statewide buffers do help kind of with that, to be honest with you, the shore buffers, because they have that 50 foot on each side. So in addition to our flood zones, we have 50 foot on that side, which does help to maintain that natural floodplain function. And then also maintaining open space throughout the floodplain really does cut down on flooding up and downstream and cuts our floodings throughout the city. Essentially, you want to give the floodplain or the creeks space to expand. And then when you urbanize floodplains, if you'll notice, like something like Crabtree Creek, it's very deep and incised. And so that leads to flashing storms and more risk and things like that. You want to widen the floodplain, gives it room space to spread out. And just real quick, we have 4 different designations for floodplain within Raleigh. The first one is FEMA, including the future floodplain, which is federally designated. The state does our mapping for us, and that's basically a drainage area of 1 square mile. We have city flood studies that are in our watershed plans, which go deeper into the watershed besides 1 square mile. We have projects specific studies, which I don't get into like a little bit, which could go as low down as 5 acre drainage area. And then we also have our good old flood hazard soils layer, which has been around since 1970, which can be annoying, but I always say it has got us in trouble in the past. So I have a special place in my heart with flood hazard soils, even though it misses my heart and it's an absolute river here.
So thanks, Ben, for running through these. I was going to point out that the city studies are not in a place where they're easily accessible right now, but they are, we've listed these in the order of detail, the level of accuracy. So they are of a lot higher quality than references flood hazard soils, which are based on soils. They are, you can see in this picture on the top, that it's kind of in a different place than the stream. So they're not always particularly accurately mapped. And then basically we require project-specific studies for these areas where we know there's the potential for flooding, but they're upstream of that FEMA floodplain. And so this is based on the drainage area to the site. So for for all sites that are a 25 acre drainage area or bigger, a project specific study is required if there is not one of those two above data sources. And so, and then we have what we call a simple flood study for up to 100 acre drainage area. And then we have a comprehensive flood study when it's over 100 acres, which is just a higher level of detail in the study itself. And then if there's flood hazard soils mapped, if it's 0 to 5 acres drainage area, the regulations don't apply. If it's 5 acres or more, they have to do a flood study. And again, it's a simple flood study. We do directly use these flood hazard soils for the instance of projects that are not doing site work, but are just doing interior work. So my team, we review, you've heard before, about 15,000 reviews a year. And a big chunk of those are things where we're just looking at them for floodplain regulation compliance. So it's everything from people replacing their HVAC unit to big subdivisions. But for HVAC replacement, for interior renovations, we have a filter that looks at, is there floodplain on this property? And if there is, it comes to us to look at it in more detail to see if the building is actually in the floodplain. It's actually like a buffer. It's a geographic buffer to how far it is from the floodplain, so that then we can find out if we need to permit it for floodplain and get into some tracking that I'll talk about in a minute. So we do use the flood hazard soils for that work. All right, so we look at floodplain review on two different levels. We look at it at the site plan level, so what fill is going in, where are roads going, that sort of thing. And we look at it on the building level. So I'm going to talk about the site level first. So we have the goal of preventing or limiting encroachment into the floodplain areas, because that uses up the floodplain spaces that was talking about and can result in increased flood levels. So in 2022, we upped our regulations to be more stringent, and we basically apply what FEMA requires for floodways in the entire floodplain. And we also include not just the existing conditions floodplain, but the future conditions floodplain. There's some exemptions to that. So that's for greenfield sites. If a parcel is already developed, there's different regulations that apply to it. And for existing parcels under a half acre, there's some complicated rules, but basically parcels under a half acre are exempt from that. They instead have to show that they're not putting fill in more than 50% of the footprint of the floodplain. So this is, I think some people think, oh, our 2022 regulations prevented development in the floodplain. They did not. They prevented certain kinds of development in the floodplain, and they made it the process more difficult, because if it's a FEMA floodplain, you now have to show either that there's no rise in the flood elevation, or you have to go through the lengthy process of changing the flood maps. If it is one of those other types of floodplains, one of those other data sources, then we would, if there's changes in flood elevation that aren't on the parcel that's being developed, so are on another property owner's parcel, then we require them to obtain a flood storage easement to basically get permission to raise that water level. That happens sometimes. Other times people are able to change their design to not increase flood levels. So this is in terms of the site development. We do require flood studies, as I talked about, and the purpose of those flood studies is, number one, to establish that that 100-year or 1% chance floodplain elevation. So the goal is to not have buildings in the floodplain. We also want to reduce the risk for residents and not have, we don't want to build new housing that's susceptible to flooding. And so that's the first thing. So that's even if they're not doing any work in the proposed floodplain, but they're in one of those areas, we want to establish that flood elevation so that buildings are raised high enough. And then we're comparing those existing flood elevations to the proposed flood elevations to see if any fill in the floodplains is raising it more than 0.004 feet. And that's how we define no rise. So if it's more than that, it's a rise. If it's less than that, it's not a rise. And then, as we talked about in the previous slide, this flood study would determine if they needed to do a letter of map revision through the FEMA process or get a flood storage easement.
That's a quick clarify.
Yeah.
So this is, the flood study really focuses on peak flow, not overall volume. Is that right, for the 100-year storm?
It focuses on elevation. So it's actually looking at the model looks at specific points in the stream that are representative areas. It does a cross section, what the channel looks like, and looks at under existing conditions, what is the elevation of the water? And then under proposed conditions, what is the elevation of the water?
Okay, for the 1% storm.
Yes. Yes, and so I think that's another a source of confusion with our flood regulations is that we actually do not regulate peak discharge for the 100-year storm. In most of the city, there's some where there's existing downstream structural flooding, we can regulate it. But for most of the city, we don't. So when we're looking at those flood studies, we're looking at not, are you increasing, if you're increasing 100-year flow, you might be increasing the water surface elevation, but that's not what we're regulating. We're regulating, are you filling in the channel? Are you building a road across the stream that's creating higher flood elevations that might be backing onto other parcels, that sort of thing.
You're also regulating the future, which you guys have modeled, which is a full build out, right? So
yes, we require people, even if they're doing a site specific study for the offsite conditions, they have to use the future zoning or the zoning representing the future conditions.
but even your FEMA model would have the
Yes.
future condition model. So
Is NRCS the source of the flood hazard soils, or what is that source?
Yes, so the flood hazard soils were determined at some point in the past of which soil classifications it was. So yes, it's the NRCS soils. A minor detail that might come up for folks is that recently the maps for Wake County were updated and the names of the soils were changed. Our UDO still references the old maps names. We are working to update that, but for right now, folks need to use the old one because that's where the names. Excuse me.
Right.
All right, I'm just going to go over the computer and advance the slide. All right, so now we're getting to the building requirements. So this is another example of a place where we are more stringent than the FEMA standards. FEMA says that you have to be above the flood elevation, the 100-year flood elevation. We require you to be 2 feet above the flood elevation or have what's known as a freeboard. So that additional 2 feet. So that is one thing we're checking when we're looking at building designs for structures that are in the floodplain. So this comes up both with commercial structures, including on redevelopment sites. It also comes up for some number of single family homes that are able to be developed in that area. So there's an example that it's both the first floor elevation and it's their HVAC equipment, their electrical equipment, that sort of thing will also be elevated 2 feet above that flood elevation. We also, our reviewers are looking for their flood vents, which is, there's an example in the top right corner, to make sure that those are properly designed to allow floodwaters to pass through the foundation of the structure. Non-residential structures can be flood-proofed. So this is an example from what used to be the Sears at Crouchy Valley Mall, where they're in this case using a gate to flood-proof the structures.
So I have a question along those lines. The intersection of, I think it's Edwards Mill and Glenwood in the southwest quadrant, and a building got put there, and I didn't understand how it got permitted, because whenever we have heavy rain, there's flashing signs saying road may be flooded, and that got put right up.
Yeah,
You know,
so
I
there's,
just-
so
I don't know.
commercial buildings.
So they have a way to mitigate the.
Yeah, they have to
Okay.
show that they have to have an action plan of what
Okay.
steps they would take in the case of flooding. And obviously they're taking a risk.
Right,
Um,
okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Thank you. So the other thing my team looks at is substantial improvement. So this goes back to why are we looking at those HVAC replacements, at those interior renovations? And this is because there's regulations about how much you can improve the value of a building in the floodplain without having to retroactively meet the flood standards. And so it's 50% of the building value. We look at a 5-year time frame. So we look at, every time one of these, an improvement of a building in the floodplain comes in, we look back at the permitting history, which has values attached to it. And we are comparing that to not the property value. So it's not the land value, it's just the building value. So this does, we occasionally have, say, a homeowner who wants to do an interior improvement, but they would have to, say, elevate their systems or not do improvements at their walkout basement or something like that, because they would trigger this substantial improvement. It also happens for commercial buildings as well. All right, any questions before I hand it off to Seamus to talk about programs? All right.
Thanks, Sandy. Thank you all very much for having us here. I'll need to stand over here so I'm talking that way. My name is Seamus Riley, and I am the supervisor over the floodplain department or division within Stormwater. And I have been here, I came here maybe a year and a half ago that we came to talk about some of the stuff that we're working on. So I'm going to cover a little bit of that and then some of the new stuff or the bigger stuff that we're currently invested in. So the first thing is the community rating system. This is a program under the National Flood Insurance Program. It's administered by FEMA. And the purpose of this program is to facilitate better floodplain management, encourage communities to go above and beyond the expectations of the National Flood Insurance Program, to go beyond their standards. And the more you do that, the more of a reward the community gets, not only in terms of better floodplain management, which is safer and better for everybody, but also it results in a monetary discount on flood insurance premiums for every resident or every flood insurance policy in the city. So not just resident, it can be commercial as well. So the city joined the community rating system last year. We went in as a class 5. So everybody who has a flood insurance policy, everybody who has renewed or has a new policy since October of last year should see a 25% discount on their annual flood insurance premium. And we do have a bunch of stuff in the works where our class should improve, I would say, over the next 2 years, so that that discount will grow. This main image is just showing you the CRS communities in the country. Up on the top right, that graphic is showing you that FEMA Region 4 has the largest number of CRS communities by far. And we are in FEMA Region 4. But what might be really surprising is that of all the states in the United States, North Carolina is number 3 as far as the number of CRS communities in the state. So you would think maybe Louisiana, Texas, or something would be ahead of us, but they're not. So we have a lot of engagement in this program. It's very important, and a lot of money is saved from being part of it. And then that's it. So this is just a structural overview of the program. It's basically 4 main activities with 94 elements under those activities. And you can do as many of them as you want. Some of them are mandatory, but the more you do, the more points you get, the better your class. So I will say that any of these activities that you take on are quite exhaustive. It requires a commitment that is extreme, I think, to some extent, which is good. I mean, if you're going to get a big discount like that, I understand that. And it's just better for floodplain management jurisdiction wide. Some of the initiatives that we are currently working on now that we either just got started or we're just about to kick off are one, the program for public information. This is a committee-based program that ultimately is focused on increasing awareness and increasing the number of flood insurance policies in the city. And that's one of the primary focuses of the PPI. Another one is the enhanced outreach to renters. This is new, and this is something that we recognize that renters are really an underserved population in terms of, when you look at flood awareness, I guess, overall, if you own a home, if you have a mortgage, there is a required purchase of flood insurance. If you have a mortgage that is backed by the federal government. So renters don't have that. And a lot of times they're staying in homes that, could be paid off already, or there is no flood insurance policy, and a lot of times they're not even aware of their flood risk. So we have started to develop this program. It's actually underway. It's going to be something that we will do from here on out. And the purpose of this program really is to target renters and explain to them what their flood risk is, what what resources are available, not only to prepare but to respond post impact if there is one. The flood warning and dam failure response plan. This is a plan that, focuses on warning people and preparing for these types of events. This plan will go before council. We'll ask them to adopt it. Ultimately, it will culminate in a large, full-scale tabletop exercise every year with fire, with police, with our state partners. And we actually are doing ours this year on June 24th. But we have to do it every single year to test this plan. And that's a great thing. And every time you test your plan, you get an after action report, and you use that report to update the plan to make sure that it's as current and as useful as possible. And then finally, our repetitive loss area analysis. We had identified our repetitive loss area polygons. But in order to really understand what the root cause is of these, of losses in repetitive loss areas, and also what appropriate mitigation action should be taken, you have to look a lot deeper. And so we are doing a fully detailed repetitive loss area analysis, and that will provide us that insight that we need in order to make sure that we are taking the right steps. Also, not only the CRS, but the city of Raleigh is we prioritize transparency for data when it can, not only when it's helpful, but especially when it can be used to, better everybody's understanding of flood risk and put people in a safer spot. So that's very important to us. We will always continue doing that. And this is just one example. This is a portal that's on our website. Anybody can access it. And in this portal, you can pull a flood zone determination for any property in the entire city, be inside or outside the flood zone, inside or outside the floodplain. You can go in there, you can see every elevation certificate that we've had since 1991. There's over 1,000 in there. And so if you're interested in the elevation profile of the property, you can just go in there and see if it's there. If it's there, you can access it. It's totally free. There's no passcodes, nothing like that. You can view it, you can print it off and use it for whatever you need it for. Also, you can see these are, these are some of the repetitive loss area polygons that we'd established last year. These will update as we go through this new detailed repetitive loss area analysis. But you can also go into this program, and you can see wherever FEMA has issued a letter of map amendment. So if anybody has petitioned FEMA for a map change because they meet those elevation requirements in order to do that, FEMA will pull you out of the flood zone, and you won't see that on the firm because it's not a big enough change to redo the map for. But you will get a letter, and that letter is what you'd present to your mortgage company and say, no, I don't need flood insurance, unless they can still make you, but for the most part they don't. So all of that is in there. It's all publicly available, and we're pushing more and more stuff like this. So next we're going to talk a little bit about mitigation and grants. And basically with this, I just wanted to talk about how we are delivering FEMA funded or federally funded projects. Right now, you know, these programs like HMGP, BRIC, and FMA, they are critical to, you know, to flood preparedness and infrastructure improvements and all that stuff that is needed. Recently, these programs have either been completely gutted or they have just been dead in the water, and all of them actually. So it's been challenging to move forward with projects. I will say, despite that, we are about to move forward with a FEMA funded acquisition of a property. We also are working on our first elevation, which is taking a lot longer because of these issues, but it's still in the works, and we're expecting that to move forward relatively soon. The city itself is also, you know, we're fortunate enough to be in a situation where if we have a property that is, you know, that fits the profile for, you know, for what we can do, we can acquire it ourselves using city funds, and we did acquire a property last year that we were just about to demolish that will be kept in open space forever, and possibly used as, you know, some type of park or whatever we decide to do with it. But it will be kept as open space. We are about to acquire 2 more properties. And this is a program that we are going to be ramping up, and that there is a lot of interest in the community. We sent out letters, and the response has been a little surprising actually sometimes. So we are doing all that, and we are using, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we are using new tools and technology to help us prioritize mitigation opportunities so that we are, you know, we're really getting the biggest bang for the buck. We're not doing these in areas that have a low flood risk opposed to areas that have a much higher one. We want to make sure that these projects are being done in areas where they should be done. And finally, one of the sort of the big hot topics right now is the North Carolina Flood Resiliency Blueprint Alignment. And I put a note down here just to say what that is. So this program is a statewide science-based plan and a decision tool that helps prioritize and fund projects to reduce flooding and improve community resilience across the state. So the state has launched this huge program. There's been a lot of work involved. They've recently asked for all the communities to submit projects that we would like to receive funding for. And, you know, hopefully if it works out like that, and we have done that, we've submitted those projects, and hopefully if it works out like that, then we will have funding for these projects. And that'd be great if it plays out like that. So this is a big initiative. This is something that's currently really in development. It's evolving as we go. And you're gonna hear a lot more about it in the very near future. And I was just speaking of that technology and these new tools. So this is one of those tools, and we call it FlowMap. It's really a mitigation opportunity assessment tool. And it has allowed us to quantify the flood risk of all properties and parcels in the city. And that's very important because in order, like I said before, in order for us to do these mitigation projects and to, you know, accurately target areas to do outreach and education, we have to make sure that we are identifying the right places to do that. So FlowMap, it assigns a flood risk value for every structure in the city. And it allows us not only to, you know, pinpoint our education outreach efforts and our mitigation projects, but it also allows us to incorporate data as we get it. So it can be large scale, small scale data that we can throw, you know, from maybe flood studies or comprehensive plans. And we can throw that right into this program, and we can generate the new risk profiles for these properties. And it's a working program that we use all the time and that we are very reliant on as far as, you know, ensuring that we are doing the right work in the right places. And there's a whole bunch of science behind this. Allison over there could tell you everything. I can certainly try if she's already left. So if you do have questions afterwards, please let me know, or you can just email us. And then as far as future work goes, so this took like years and years because of just everything with FEMA lately, but we finally just became a cooperative technical partner with the federal government and with the state of North Carolina. And the state of North Carolina is one of the few states that are a cooperative technical partner with FEMA. So this is awesome because this will allow us to, as you can see here, it will allow us to, really it's going to allow us to improve the frequency of our map updates. You know, you go decades in between when FEMA will do a map update, long time. And you know, we have the capability to do this. We are doing studies that are providing that data. So that's a wonderful thing. Another great thing is that, as Ben and Sally were talking about, the FEMA threshold, drainage threshold for mapping the floodplain, has left a lot out. And so this will allow us to look much further up the upstream at properties that were left out because of that mapping threshold. And we can identify these properties that we know are in a floodplain, that we know are at risk of flooding and hopefully regulate accordingly. And then finally, it also allows us to sort of detail up our maps in a way that's very helpful for us. But long term, it's allowing us to improve our ability to identify at-risk properties and strengthen our not only our long-term planning and mitigation plans, but also, again, that outreach and education part too. So this is a big deal. Our agreement right now is with legal. So we've already been accepted in the program. We are moving forward with it. But that agreement will really sort of fine tune what the responsibilities the city will take on compared to what the state will still do. And of course, as always, we end with, our goal to be the smartest stormwater program possible, to economically and equitably achieve our mission to be stormwater smart. And we're here for questions if anybody has any. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know offhand how many high hazard dams there are in the city of Raleigh?
I think there's 16. I want to say about 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're fixing what? Not for long. Get down to
Any other questions?
So thank you.
Regulations?
That seems great. I would love to see that spread out to the whole state, just following the state blueprint for resiliency and all of that discussion. There was discussion about being a state level FEMA effectively that's a little bit more nimble and adaptive at mapping that stuff. Everything's changing. So it's great to see what Raleigh's doing. I would guess Wilmington and Charlotte might have something pretty good too, but Raleigh's like right up there at the best program for the state. So that's great.
Great to see. And next month, I believe we're gonna get updates on the flood early warning system again as the hurricane season starts to roll around, so.
Well, after the presentation, I guess I would like to make a motion for us to comment on the Z3825 assessment.
Okay, I think I don't know if we need a motion or not. We had a motion to come back already to it. So
Yeah.
we're good. So, and with that, typically we do often provide commentary and that sometimes it's in written form, but sometimes it's just commentary to the presenter. And I will ask once again, Ms. Stewart, would you like to be here to speak to us at all or answer any questions, or are you going to remain silent?
Unfortunately, I have to remain silent. I look forward to hearing your input.
Good. All right. Then I will also need to do this. I'm going to recuse myself because we have a business relationship with the landowner in another county on another project as a business, our company does. So I'm going to recuse myself from this future conversation. Samantha is next in line as Planning Commission liaison. And so the meeting is yours and we'll continue from there.
Well, I think that Lionel just made a motion to formally comment as a commission. And so, I guess if there's further discussion, we could have a little bit more discussion before voting on that motion, if anyone has a second, but anyone have anything to add?
I mean, that's a stormwater condition pending, but to date, you have not received any stormwater conditions, and tomorrow is the deadline, right?
Tomorrow's the deadline if they want to get in time for the May 5th public hearing.
Okay.
So there's a deadline for that, but I mean, if they missed it, they would go on a different public hearing date.
I mean, I would think that based off the previous rezoning and the conditions that were put in place, that it would be prudent for us to look into that, particularly for this site, just because there's a significant amount of floodplain on it. There's going to be impact.
Yeah, I think in general for us and for the city's best interest, that it's in the city's best interest, stormwater wise, is not to have development encroach into the floodplain. And this development appears to be doing that from a level, which would, weaken the city's stormwater management ability. I don't know what the exact comment would be at this point, but certainly we are concerned about the development. We asked for some information and answer questions. It was not provided. So I don't think the concerns have changed or been quelled.
And in the past, just to kind of highlight some of the things that we have encouraged, taking a closer look at, we've talked about advocating for stormwater designing for larger storms, for it's not impacting the floodplain at all, for enhanced GSI, for enhanced sediment erosion control. We've talked about difference between volume control and peak flow control. Those are all things that I think we could lift up in this case and say that it's worth consideration.
I think based on, like you were saying, previous cases, you would at least see super silt fence here, potentially with as a condition that may be recommended, just because that has been consistent across the board. I think as a commission, we've recommended.
Maybe I'm not understanding it. Would it be that we would like to see similar conditions as were put on the past rendition of this? And if not, would like to hear explanations as to why those aren't being proposed, or maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, it seems like we're at a like standstill with, I say we, but I mean, the city is at a standstill with the developer where they have asked for, you know, something similar. It hasn't been provided, the deadline's tomorrow. I mean, we kind of, I guess we would sort of support the city's position.
Well, and from what, from city staff standpoint, we're just asking you, they're gonna revise those conditions, maybe present that.
Okay.
And that's what was communicated at the Tuesday night council meeting, that they wanted to delay setting public hearing, so more conditions could be submitted. And so it's more of a timing aspect. The city staff, as always, with everything on the case, looks for enforceable conditions that we have.
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope and not the best precedent for what this group's interested in terms of floodplain protection. Floodplain's getting smaller, floodwaters are increasing. And just from that perspective, we would, you know, sort of have questions about the development and whether the city should keep approving these types of things.
Yeah, I agree. The developer wanted to talk, they could have spoken and they chose not to. That shows their level to me.
So I think to summarize kind of what I'm hearing, a potential path forward could be for us to engage as a commission by formally writing something on behalf of the commission to council, saying, expressing the concerns that they're just highlighted and saying that we'd like to see consideration of some stormwater conditions and give an array, a menu kind of things that we've seen in the past that we have, you know, would like consideration of. Does
And
that
then we
sound?
support the city's current position or not?
The city doesn't have, you know, the city has asked if they would like to submit any conditions. And so I think,
The city hasn't voiced their opinion because they're waiting for the final submission to get there, and then they have.
But that's an action, so that's not a position, I guess. I mean,
City staff normally does not take a position on rezoning cases.
I understand, but you're waiting on something.
Correct.
So that's, okay. I don't know how to couch that, so.
I think they're waiting on that particular floodplain condition language in order to make sure that it's enforceable. But our conversation is sort of about the conditions that were on the case in the past that we maybe like to see included, and potential consideration of other things like cell fences and other mitigation measures.
Yeah, comparable, like mitigation measures comparable to what they had before, or even better.
So should we make a motion for someone to draft something up and then the commission to further review, of course, before we actually like put our stamp on it? Because that's a, you know, we gotta kind of balance things
You
here.
could do that through email.
Yes, I think that makes sense. Sounds like this case will likely not be heard until mid-May, but potentially in early May before our next meeting. So if we were to vote in favor of engaging, then maybe Graham and I, like we've done before, would co-draft something and share it with the commission for review. And we would agree to move forward or not on submitting that for official comment.
The situation may be Nicola.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, so Nicola and I will have that conversation.
So if that sounds like a good path forward, then I'll reiterate Marinelle's motion to formally comment as a commission. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Robert. All in favor? All against? All right.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we are right on time, maybe a couple minutes behind. Some topics are noted in the upcoming stuff, and we have some stormwater maintenance team equipment tour. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be here. You're gonna see all the tools and the tricks. They got some amazing stuff back there. It'll be great. Hopefully dry weather. I think one time we had a rainy day, but it's really cool to see what they have and what they're doing and all the amazing stuff that they're doing to keep our city clean and safe. So we'll have that. We'll also have the flood early warning program review. And I think that's it. Oh, yes. We'd like to present a certificate of appreciation to our departing commission member. Yep.
I was not expecting that.
Somebody pulled this out of their hat.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I did my due diligence.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, take care.
Sorry.
And with that, Josh.
I'm not gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. And anybody second?
Second.
Second, all right, Luann, all in favor of adjournment? God, I was pointing to you, Barry.